power station, people. That is what we are taking a look at right now. All thanks to Sophie Tumazzi, right? She was able to hook this up. And yeah, it is from, right, Daniel Edelstyn and Hilary Powell. Now, we've spoken to this dynamic duo before, all the way back on episode 145, part 2, right? Man, it's a long ass time ago, right? We're on 396 right now. So, yeah, those early days, people. That's when we had our first conversation. And yeah, now they've got a new joint power station. That's all the information I've got. There's not an IMBD right now, but you know, it's fine, right? So, this new film, you may ask, what is it about? Well, Power Station began in the depths of lockdown and in the aftermath of our previous film, Bank Job, where we purchased and blew up 1.2 million of local debt with the question, what could we do from where we live with the people around us to build powers of energy and imagination? Working to turn the street and local schools solar, Power Station is a scalable, in-your-face prototype of community-led power. Channeling Withnail and I and Ealing comedy, the film charts the financial and emotional trials and tribulations of making change together, from sleeping on rooftops to growing thousands of sunflowers and attempts at Christmas #1. Community spirit and resilience are at the heart of this documentary. And yes, that is it, right? And I think what you see in this is very similar to what you see in Bank Job. And I don't mean they're the same film. What I mean is this ability of Daniel and Hilary to give us this raw look at the process, you know? And sometimes with these things, right, it all looks a little staged, right? It all looks a little staged and contrived, right? But this, you know what I mean? This definitely feels real, and there's something about that, you know? There's something that grabs your attention when you can see that there's this organic thing happening in front of you. So yeah, this really did like come out of lockdown, it would seem, because we start off and we have like Dan deciding to just shoot everything to Hilary's dismay. You know what I mean? And we ever like, oh, why are you filming the dishes? Like, stop it, stop. You know? And it is only when they hear this news about energy prices, right? And yeah, that was a big thing during lockdown, right? Because, man, I had no hot water. I had no hot water, man. It was a nightmare, right? But yeah, it was, you know, saying that all the fuel prices went up, right? And it was nuts because, okay, you're putting fuel up when people aren't working. Like, how does that make any sense, right? What are we doing here? You know, so that happened, and then I believe the government was talking about removing the fuel benefit that they would give to the elderly at Christmas, right, during winter, essentially, to help with the rising costs. Because, you're going to have your heating on more at that time, right? So it was a little thing to help out, right? And they were saying they were going to remove this, which was craziness. So this then sparked within them this idea to utilize solar power, right? Utilize solar power to take themselves and, right? And because, yeah, you could take yourself off the grid. I know people that have done that, right? And they make enough electricity to sell some back to the council. But yeah, not just them, but their street, their community. And that is the huge thing, right? That is craziness, right? Like, how are you going to do that? Well, Daniel and Hilary show us. And that's the interesting thing. And they show us this kind of, this look at how you would go about it. But, it's full of pitfalls and stress and everything, right? It really is, from quotes drastically rising, to, just having to get people on board, right? And then do all the surveying and get stuff, find someone to install and all of this kind of stuff. So we see all of that, right? But another thing Daniel and Hilary are extremely good at, and that is galvanizing people, right? Getting people excited to be part of something. Like we saw it in Bank Job when they got everyone to come and, help make the notes and do all this other stuff, right? Which, that's a big thing, right? To get anything going, you need buy-in. And they got it there, and we see them get it within their community from everyone. And there's this Pakistani gentleman who, came to the UK, I think he said in 66, right? And we see that, right? And he's talking about the fact that because of, this project, because of this work, they have brought the community closer together, which, that's so big, right? That's so big. You know what I mean? You're not only helping with their, bills, but you've also, brought people close. And yeah, because it's just like, so many people do not know their neighbors, right? Don't talk to people and just all of that stuff. So being able to do that and put these things in place, that's craziness. That's great. But yeah, we see them, go through these different steps to try to bring this to fruition, right? And because it, like with so many things, you build that initial groundswell, but it can go away. And when you're dealing with something like this, that isn't just like, shall we do it? Yeah, okay, we'll do it tomorrow, right? There's so many steps that, most people, but they don't understand what it is, right? You'd be like, do you want solar panels? Yeah. So when are you going to install them? Next time, are you going to install them this week, next week, tomorrow? So because that's not a, it's not a possibility. So out of sight, out of mind. And we see them do all of these different things to then revitalize the fundraising process and to, keep the thing in the mind's eye, right? One of which being sleeping on top of your house's roof, right? In wintertime. I think they spent 23 days up there, which, hey, do you fancy doing that? Like, I mean, I'd just be worried I'm going to roll myself out of bed and then off the roof. You know what I mean? That's the big thing. Like, yo, but we see them do this. And again, when they're doing all of this, right, they're talking about the fear of it all, like the stress of it all. You know what I mean? Like the public perception, right? The scrutiny, right? All of these things are talked about, which is real, And as I said, there's something to that, right? Something to that. Like the film, I think it's a call to action, right? It's letting you know that this thing is possible, right? Where, as you feel beholden to, right? If your prices go up, what are you going to do? Like sometimes there's a possibility of moving to another provider who have got an offer on. But that offer, right, it's only for a set period of time, and then the price is going to rise to something else. So it's just like, what do we do? What can we do? So you have all of this going on. And this film lets you realize that there is another possibility. There's more choice than you initially thought, right? If you and your street, your community can come together, you could do this, You could do this. And even if they don't want to, you could do it. But the film shows us, gives us that guidance, that understanding. Right? It's there's a couple of songs in this which like I think it's for like fundraising, trying to get to number one, and then that's all that attention, right? So people see what you're doing, and then possibly they will help you. But I did think, right, that the levels of the percussion, right, the beats and all of that were a little high. It was hard to hear the lyrics themselves. There's one song that I thought it was saying like red roses. There's also bread and roses, right? So it's just like, it's just that level of, just bring it down slightly, and I think those songs will pop more. But yeah, the street, the school, right? You see all of these school kids, wanting to get involved. They planted 10,000 sunflowers. I think it's 10,000. It's a lot, right? I might have got that number wrong. But they planted a lot of sunflowers, just as this other thing, to help promote this initiative, which is great, Like, it is I think the interesting thing is, right, there's a point when Octopus are saying they might want to help, and we see that aspect of things, right? Like, yeah, just these different things. These different things. We see the impact of family, right? When you're trying to do something like this. It's there's a lot, but then throughout we do have like Dan and Hilary both showing like de-stress, the frustration of things, but the other one is always there to pick them up, right? To help them back onto the horse, as it were, which is, I mean, that's always a nice thing, right? It's always a great thing to see. And again, it adds that authenticity to this because filmmaking is tough, man, right? It's tough. But like doing a documentary, whew, it just takes a long ass time, right? And it's one of those things that you think, how much has the death of journalism impacted documentary work, right? And obviously, when I say the death of journalism, I'm talking about mainstream, for the big papers and news outlets and all of that, right? That's falling away. Now, a lot of great journalists are going independent, right? Which is fantastic, So there are outlets where we can still get actual news. But with these big, franchises like the Times, the Telegraph, and just all of those, right? New York Post, right? We have seen how they manipulate things. So I wonder how much of an impact that has had on documentary storytelling, because there aren't necessarily these big platforms for documentaries, even though they are riveting, right? They are really thought-provoking and can act as tools of what not to do. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you can understand these moments when Daniel and Hilary are like, oh man, this is overwhelming. You can understand that. And it's all there. It's all there. I mean, I'm sure some things got edited out and cut, but what we do see does feel natural, organic, and authentic. And that, coupled with the concept, with the idea, right, brings you along, And just seeing all of these different characters, right, these different residents, right, and just their energy that they bring, that just oftentimes makes you smile, right? So, yeah, if you are interested in sustainable energy, right? If you watch Bank Job or any other of Dan and Neil and Hilary's work, then you'll want to check out Power Station, which goes out into the world on the 3rd of October. On their website, right, they do have a list of dates where they're doing Q&As, which, I'm sure that will be mad fascinating, right? So, yeah, all the links will be on the website. But if you go to their website, www.power.film.com, then, you will be, oh no, it's just power.film. There's no .com. My apologies. You'll be able to see where you could possibly watch this, right? And where you could have a Q&A, which, People, go do that. So that is my take on this new documentary, Power Station, which is well worth a watch.